Do you think ArenaNet are ever going to add a boss that's just something the breaker? I think they're not going to do it. They're going to do it just to spite me. And you know what? That's not okay. They should do it. They should do it because of me. That can be my next reference in the game. They name a boss the breaker. Oh wait, Lara's calling me.
We just do this. Hello.
Yo.
The random call works out actually.
It does.
I'm surprised.
I picked up.
Weird though.
Yeah.
Like my it is on like streamer mode, so I don't hear shit while I'm streaming.
I just see it though. I got eagle eyes.
Wow.
No, I'm
you
just
have like
used
5
to
monitors.
Because sometimes Sneb will just randomly call me out of the blue with no warning. He was like, yeah, call. And he just tells me about this like horrific experience he had on the NALFG, right? Like, you know, like...
Oh no. Oh no. Yo, Teapot, I want to know what you think about the patch.
I mean,
I want patch review.
Patch review?
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty good, I'd say. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's a lot harder than I expected, I will say.
Yeah, you know, I think that it's definitely... They took a stance, right, with the raid. They want you to do the mechanics. You have to do them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
you
kind of
will
cool.
do them. You will do them.
I think it's all designed so far. I mean, I haven't done Ura yet, but I've now done a decent amount of both Greer and Desma. I like how they're very different, right? Like Greer is very like, hey, it's a bit like Anka. It's like, can you dodge? Can you heal? Can you do damage?
Yes.
And then Desma is a much more precise mechanics check, and it's very precise positioning and stuff that you want to do. But it's cool. I really like it so far. I gotta say though, not what I was expecting at all. Like from the blog post, they were very much like, we want this to be casual raider, like LFG groups and stuff.
Yeah.
To me, it feels a lot like Wing 6 release, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the harder raids that exists. I think it's harder than Wing 6. I think it's about, especially Desima. I mean, Desima is by far the hardest boss. Like Ura is the easiest boss. Greer. So. Yeah, I think Greer is actually quite easy, and so is Ura. They're both quite easy. But yeah, Desima is honestly probably the hardest raid boss in the game by far. I think it's actually comparable. I think it's comparable to some EOD CMs even. I would say. I think it's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder than Anka CM. It's harder than Aetherblade CM.
Yeah,
I think it's actually harder than Old Line. It's harder than Old Line's Court CM as well.
Really, you think so?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's probably in the same ballpark as KOCM, I'd even say, like approximately in terms of difficulty. So I think so. I mean, it's not free.
I don't think it's quite as many phases though. It's not like you're doing this phase, this phase, and this phase.
But it requires all 10 people to actually do the mechanics. Like I think that cannot be overstated. Like you need to understand what to do, or you are going to grief the entire group. Like that. That is Desima.
Because it's like, if one person is dead, it's just the end, basically.
Yeah, this is actually a critique I have of the design for a normal mode. I am not the biggest fan of this. This is, in my opinion, like what makes it a bit of a pug killer, is the fact that if someone's dead, it almost like doesn't work anymore, right? Like I think you can actually do it with 9 people. It just means that you're gonna have a harder time soaking the green orbs, and also it is worth noting that I was watching, you don't know the special source. So...
What's the special source?
Do you actually want to know the special source?
Yeah, I want to know. Is our strat different than what you were doing?
Yes. Okay, so...
Interesting.
Wait, I mean, we were doing the special source. We have the special source.
Tell me the special source.
You need a kiter.
Oh, we have a kiter. We had a kiter. Yeah.
Wait, you weren't doing it though. You weren't doing the thing.
The thing? You mean having somebody all the way in the back, and then they get the red, and then they teleport behind the pylon? Yeah. That's what you mean, right?
Oh, so wait, you just weren't doing it right then. Okay, never mind then. You know
well, we were doing it, but also like what's it called? My positioning would sometimes drift, and then I would end up being the first person, and like But we did have a kiter. It's just that you know, I was a bit shaky on my positioning for sure.
Yeah, I mean the other thing that needs to happen is that you need to manipulate the pylons that get empowered, right? Because the pylons that get empowered are the ones that are nearest to the kiter, basically. And what you need to do, and this is how it becomes possible even with less people, I think, is that you need to make sure that the pylons that get empowered are the ones that aren't near the arrow team. Like the people who are baiting, that you can't have pylons activated behind them. Like what happens in a lot of runs, and definitely what happened on early progression, right? Is that when the greens start moving in, they're behind the people who have the arrows, right?
Yes.
And then you die because you touch them and you die, pretty much. So what you need to do Decima is the kiter needs to guarantee that there are never greens spawning behind the arrow team or the line team or whatever we're calling it, the beam team.
We're talking the big greens, right? Because I think greens always spawn that way. It's just the empowered gives the big greens, I think.
Yeah, but you
you
can manipulate it so that none spawn behind the green, the beam people.
Really?
Yes. So
how do you do that?
So the way that it works is that Decima has this buff on it, right? And it says that whenever periodically she discharges these stacks, and it will activate the X nearest pylons to the furthest person away. That's basically what happens. So the kiter can manipulate the spawn. So the kiter needs to manipulate it such that all of the pylons that get activated are behind the orb soak team, the team soaking the greens, pretty much.
Interesting.
That is the gimmick. That is the special sauce. The kiter basically carries very hard.
Right. So you're not just kiting the red arrows, but you're basically kiting the green spawns.
Yeah,
in a
you're
way.
kiting the greens. You're kiting the green spawns, and you're kiting the red arrow. And then there you go. And basically, what you can do is, or what the strat that we are using now, is that you just have 4 people hard assigned to doing the arrows. And then the kiter gets the 5th.
That's what we were doing too.
And then you basically have everyone else just doing the green. And and the thing is, the green also spawns relative to the kiter. This actually makes doing the green incredibly easy, because the green will always spawn opposite to where the kiter is every single time. So basically, the green team needs to be aware of where the kiter is and then stand opposite
Oh, you mean
to
the green arrow, right?
The green arrow,
the
green arrow,
Yeah.
You need to do that, then it's easy. Easy as piss.
So how would you do both of those, though? Like, if you're both trying to let the green spawn near the green team, sort of, and you're also, at the same time, trying to get the green arrow on the green team, you gotta be opposite.
So
can you do both of those?
Yeah, I think what we've come up with, and I'm sure people will continue to cook and come up with some other things. What we ended up doing was we kind of have the kiter at 90 degrees, basically, like between the 2 groups, and then bouncing back and forth, like rotating 90 degrees every time. So basically, the green arrow ends up going kind of, again, in between both groups, and then like the team just runs onto it. I actually saw there was a really interesting strat actually where people were using Scourge Portal and Scourge Portaling onto the green arrow as well. Like that's another approach you can take as well. So there is that.
It's a cool boss though. It's cool design in my opinion.
It is, yeah.
I remember a lot of people were thinking like, will this just be like Decima from Open World? But it's pretty solid. Like they have a good interpretation. Like the mechanics feel similar, but they're definitely not like trivial open world mechanics here.
Yeah.
You know. Well designed. Reminds me of Sarah's adult actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think. I look. It actually reminds me a lot of WoW boss design, which I think is good.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think they did their research for this one, and in particular, I would say, I'm gonna have to do some propaganda. I admit this. Lara's chat, we are doing propaganda. It has to be done. I've already seen people complaining about Virtuoso a lot, and I don't like this for a very important reason. I actually really think that they specifically designed Decima in such a way that it actually doesn't really matter what DPS class you play. It's obviously certainly true that Virtuoso is very strong, but mostly because of its defensive value, actually, not really because of its range on this particular encounter.
Lifesteal, yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly that you're just very, very tanky, and you can do this very well. But actually, interestingly enough, I was going to say it, Tempest is very good on that fight. Very, very good. Tempest is big damage. And I actually think that basically, I think they very deliberately designed the encounter in such a way that I'm pretty sure you can basically play anything there and actually work pretty well. Like, you're not ever going to go like, oh man, I wish I was 1200 range right now. Like, this sucks. I think you can.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things we're doing though is like we've got these people assigned to taking the arrows.
Yeah.
Which then means they got to be further away, right? But
well, the thing is,
technically you could still have them in melee range, I think, if you're really precise.
I mean, the thing is, you only need to be out when it's about to spawn, right? And it always spawns at deterministic times. It's like after, like it does like a middle attack basically, then it will do the arrows. So you can be in melee, then go out, and then go back in again. But even that's how you could do it with like a full melee comp. But even worst case scenario, you basically have 5 spots of the raid that can always be in melee the entire time. Yeah. On the other side. So like you can still, like worst case scenario, even if you did have to camp range the entire time, which, you know, that's honestly a strat that you could do for safety. Like, yeah, you can still have just like 5 people in melee the entire time and 5 range players.
Makes sense, makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the reasons, like, I was actually playing Tempest on Greer. One of the reasons I switched was just the MOA, right? Just having easy fast CC.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like the CC on Tempest is still a little bit on the low side.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably okay on Greer at least, because Warhorn 4 will multi-hit on him, so you can probably get some decent value out of that.
Right.
Giga hitbox, but yeah. Tempest not known for its CC, not the best crowd control. And yeah, you know, Mesmer is like, it's pretty good. It's definitely the complete package with that one. It really is. But I actually think it's a well-designed fight in the sense that it doesn't really... I think Serra CM is very brittle in how you approach it. Like, you know, that is like, okay, like, you know, Convert, it's pretty good. You know, you definitely want to play that. But I don't really feel that way with any of the fights actually.
Interesting.
In this one, I think that was a consideration.
Yeah.
I know they actively tried to make it bad, right? They were like, okay, we're going to give Greer perma resolution. So have fun with that, guys. Enjoy
Let's go. I gotta say though, I'm very happy with the raid so far. I'm very interested to see the challenge modes and legendary modes. That's gonna be hype.
Yes.
But yeah, the design of the map is nice. The bosses are nice and unique. I haven't tried Area yet, but I'm excited to give that a shot at some point. Yeah.
I think I would, you know, if I'm going to get my brutal criticism out, I would say Greer and Ura, in my opinion, pretty mid on normal mode. I think Ura in particular, it's very clear that they stripped away a lot of the mechanics, because we know they designed these top down, right? They go CM first and then NM later. It's very clear they've like ripped that fight to pieces. I guess they were really worried about some of the mechanics.
Feels like there's stuff missing, kind of.
Yeah, there's not really a lot going on, to be honest. Like for context, we killed it second try. And the first try, we accidentally pulled the boss because we didn't know how to spawn it. And then we just like randomly YOLO pulled it basically and just played. Then we killed the second try. And we didn't know any of their cats. We just like, we brute forced the whole way.
Wow.
The entire way. That's just the kind of, it's not a very difficult fight. Whatsoever. And you know, nothing wrong with that. And I think this is where you can kind of get into the nitty-gritty and talk about the criticism here. The difficulty curve, I think, is kind of out of whack. Like, Desmina is by far the hardest boss. Greer and Ura significantly easier. And Greer being easy, then going into Desmina, that would obviously be fine. But the fact that Ura is significantly easier, that's kind of an issue, I think. That's a bit of a problem. Overall.
Would you say it would make more sense then if Greer and Ura were the first two and then Desmina was the final one?
Yes.
Would you say that would make more sense?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, Desmina is a proper end boss right there. Very nice design too. I like it quite a lot. I also really want to point out that it's what they really tried to do, and I think they did this well, is they tried to make it mechanically different each phase. It's not quite on the level of how much I'd want it compared to, say, a Final Fantasy fight, where each individual phase is like entirely mechanically different. But the phases play very differently, and I do like that actually. Like that to me is like that to me is a very clear sign of feedback, right? I would say that one of the criticisms that you could level at Saras even is that phases can be a bit samey, especially phase 1 and phase 2. It's like, okay, like, you know, I think we've seen enough circles now, okay? You know
I mean, that's what makes it feel HP spongy, right?
Exactly.
Like, people always think HP sponging is just about HP, but it's really about, like, doing the same thing for a long time with no variety. Yeah,
and I think that's what Desmina does, like, you know, I'm like, oh, it's phase 2. Oh, it's phase 3. Now we need to do X, right? Like, you know, the addition of the green into the last phase is really nice. Alternating with the green and the red is really good in my opinion. The winds also being introduced, kind of like changing how you might go about approaching that, for example, I think is a good thing too. And yeah, like phase 2 is different to phase 1, phase 3 is different to phase 2, and I like that. It's a clever use of kind of rejiggling things, in my opinion. Greer, I would actually be, Greer is pretty okay, I think, but to me it's very clear that a lot of the work went into Desmina. Desmina is by far the most fleshed out and kind of developed and designed boss out of all of them. You'll know what I mean when you get to
wonders if like there's like a big mechanic on Greer that's stripped out on normal mode, and maybe that's part of it. You know, like maybe on Desmina they didn't strip out quite as much as they did on the other fights. Maybe that's part of it. But maybe that's what's it called? Maybe that's a bit too optimistic. But, you know, once we play the CM, then suddenly it all makes sense, and then Greer makes way more sense because more mechanics and stuff.
I think it's probably an intentional design decision because making a mechanical kind of puzzle style encounter is much more development intensive than like a brawler
for
fight.
sure.
So I'm pretty sure Greer was always supposed to be, this is a brawler fight. Like this is it's going to try and kill you. Let's see if you live. Right, there's not really a lot of complexity to it. It is. I mean, look, we saw that with the kill with C major, right? Like it was.
Just
you just send it, you just slam, right? Like you just do what you got to do to live, and then the boss will eventually die. Whereas Decima, that doesn't work. Like, you can't do that on Decima. Like you have to do it right, and you will be punished if you don't get it right.
For sure, for sure. What I'm standing here, by the way, at Snap the Slug.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on this?
And this is honestly, I like this. It's a good reference. I mean, I can't wait for the wiki entry. Actually, wait, maybe surely someone's made one, right?
There's got to already be a wiki entry.
Okay,
for sure.
I'm gonna look it up.
Wait, have we seen Snap's reaction to this? Did he stream today, or is he busy with PhD stuff?
No, he was streaming. He loves this stuff. Like he's big in on it.
Right?
Oh,
okay, let's go.
Yeah, like
I
mean, it's actually I like it. It's a very nice reference. I think.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Highly amusing. I think the only way they could have made it better is if they somehow made it covered in slime. Because for context, I mean, your stream knows the cause, I'm sure, but I'm gonna have to spell it out just so everyone's fully aware of this. Sneb basically said that if they ever release Wing 8, he would cover himself, slather himself in Vaseline, right? And roleplay as a slug. He would like flop around on the floor and roleplay as a slug.
He did say that. This is true. Hey, thank you for the raid fires. I really appreciate that. Any thoughts on the rest of the patch? I like the legendary so far. I really like the structure they came up with. They basically did summoning stones again, you know, from like
yes,
EOD.
yeah.
They look kind of hard.
I'm a big fan of this actually because one of my things that I was like, what the hell's going on here was they made a lot of statements that I was rather interested in when it came to Hearts, actually, and how that could kind of keep the smaller events, you know, like doing just like the basic events to complete Hearts. They made statements like, oh yeah, these Hearts are going to scale up in rewards, right? They're going to be really rewarding to do these. And then they dropped the patch, and the rewards were the expansion rather, and the rewards are absolute garbage, like genuinely awful in every way. And they've actually buffed those. I don't know if you've seen this in the Renown chest. They're massively buffed.
Yeah.
And I really like that, you know. I wish that they could have done that sooner, to be frank, right? And got that hotfixed, basically, to address this, because I think that Hearts was supposed to be like the longevity of the zones, so that's very important. But yeah, Legendary Spear looks good to me. I'm going to be digging into that tomorrow. This is greedy. This is very greedy, and I admit this. I wish there had been a collection for each of the spearheads, right? Like you know, kind of similar to the variants, the Gen 3 variants. But the way that it is, it's kind of like the role players that you have to kind of deal with the allies of the claw, right? And you kind of fuse them together into one spear. I think that's an acceptable reason why you get all of them in one go, but it would have been nice, I think.
I think it did a solid job. I like how the legendary is also sort of designed around actually playing the expansion. It's not overall vision though, to be clear, but like it does feel like you gotta play a decent amount of Gen 4 bots to get it.
Oh no, I love that. I think that's a big fan. I think that having a collection for it I was slightly worried there wasn't going to be one, but the fact there is I think very good.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it should be.
I agree.
I think that rewards should be tied to the game. This is, for me, when it comes to game rewards, this is essential. The item must be tied to the world, right? It must be. Otherwise, it doesn't feel real, you know? Like, I can't get into it. I can't immerse in it. Yeah, I just like spend some gold and I got my item. Like, yeah, that's not RP. What's going on?
Did you see the new legendary vault?
Yeah, it looks really cool. I actually like it.
It's so cool.
It's really cool. I also like the idea of it as well, because the legendary system is complex, right? And it is like the main end game loop, realistically, of Guild Wars 2. That's where everyone ends up eventually. So yeah, I think it's actually really important that they did this, and it kind of gives you like a proper introduction to like how the system actually operates and so on. So yeah, no, I like it a lot. Very good.
It looks so sick as well.
It
like
does look
I wish
sick.
it would have been a strike arena, to be honest.
Have you heard the hottest lore theory out there that's actually not even that harebrained or cope?
No, I'm not sure.
Okay, so they added new voice lines for Malix to Rev. Right?
Oh.
Yeah. And this kind of got me thinking. We're probably not going to be able to explore like who the actual making, the forging of these titans. We're probably not going to explore that directly in the story because we're going to Bavanissos, right? Okay, that's where we're going next. We all know this, okay? We know where we're going.
That's been, I mean, they keep teasing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's where we're going. But we obviously want to see the forging of the titans, right? Well, where's that? The domain of anguish. Who's the domain of anguish? Yeah. Malix. What have we got at the end of the expansion?
That's the big thing, right?
Yeah,
like,
the fractal.
This is... I mean, that's the big thing. Like, who made these titans? Like, they very directly, like, asked this question in, like, some of the collections. And they're like, has the foundry of Filled Creations been relit? You know, my theory is still that it's Menzies. Mingus, depending on who you ask.
Look, I'm gonna say
because somebody's here.
It was Isgaran. I'm still hoping for I'm still hoping for the Isgaran war crime arc. The Isgaran war crime arc.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think
that would be a cool twist.
I think that the fractal is going to be the foundry from Failed Creations, and we're going to see it.
Yo.
That's my theory. That's my theory.
I mean, they already got those Titan models. You can put those in there.
Exactly. I mean, they're getting some use out of them. Like, Greer spawns little mini ones as well. You know, like they're getting value out of that. So that definitely.
You know what I think is interesting though? I will back up my Menzies theory a little bit there.
Yeah, Mingus.
First of all, they call themselves Godspawn.
That's true.
Could that mean that a gold has made them, or do they consider themselves? It could be something else, but I still think that that's a nice hint towards it being Menzies. But also, there is a whole bunch of stuff about Lear and Soto in like the Wizard's Tower meta event. He's got like some lines about fighting the Shadow Army. Menzies' Shadow Army. For those of you unaware, Menzies is Balthazar's half-brother. Big mystery in the lore. We've never encountered this character. We just know that he exists. And Lear is pretty heavily involved with figuring out what's going on right now. So I feel like it makes so much sense. Like Lear, Menzies, they got some history, you know?
But listen, I'm still, you know, I just want the Isgaran war crime arc, right? I was hoping every second that he would just say, you know, we're kind of brokering a peace with the Cryptids at the end of Soto. Isgaran moves in, says nope, and just obliterates them, just starts going berserk. And the player character's like watching horrified, right? As the, you know, he's just going crazy, right? He's just annihilating. But it didn't happen.
Isgaran, ultimate villain.
Exactly.
I will admit that would be sick, but the fact that they added Malix voice lines is very suspicious.
Exactly. It's sus to me. I think that's kind of hinting that could be some juice in the fractal, potentially.
Like, didn't we kind of kill him in Nightfall, though? Didn't we kind of kill him? Isn't he kind of dead?
Well, no, he is dead, but that's how Revs talk. That's how, you know, the Revs, like, communing with his spirit. You can talk to Glint as well, and Shiro. And
exactly.
Yeah,
but, like,
he's long dead. I mean, look.
But there's no way Malix made the Titans because he's dead.
No, I don't think Malix did. I mean, it could be anyone.
That's true.
But what I'm saying is that, you know, maybe we go to the domain of anguish, right? The foundry in the fractal, and we get to witness it, right? Like that's how it links, you know.
That would be sick, actually.
Exactly.
That would be sick.
Yeah, but in terms of the other content, I do actually have some concerns. Have you played the story yet?
No, I've not played it.
I won't spoil it, but in that case, but it's not long, right?
It's short. Yeah. It seems to be the pattern, right, with these patches. Just that the story is like very quick
and very dialogue heavy as well. Very dialogue heavy, and that in itself is not bad. To be clear,
I'm pretty okay with that personally.
Yeah. Like, my concern is that I think it's going to be very challenging for them to tell a compelling narrative as a kind of a follow-up to the story. In a relatively short amount of in-game time, like in-game hours they have access to them.
That's sort of the Soto post thing, right?
Yeah, this is my concern.
I mean, I do think it will be a little bit better because they're not trying to tell a whole demon war this time.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be challenging to tell something compelling, right?
Yeah. And another reason why
I do think this feels better, though. I do think it feels better to sort of continue on the Jennifer Waltz base story and tell one story instead of trying to cram two stories into it.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Because like I'm sure we are having a blast with these raids, but if you're not a raider, there is not that much in this patch for you.
No. No, and this is that leads into the second point of criticism. Not only do I feel like for the story players, this patch maybe underserves them with the lack of an open world map, for example. My other concern is actually that if you're not a raider and you're not interested in raiding, as many players are, of course, there's only Desmina in the Convergence, right?
Yeah, there's only one boss in there right now.
And this is a little bit bothersome to me, you know, because that means that players who are not interested in raiding will not get to interact with a proper boss fight, a replayable boss fight for Greer and Ura for months right down the line. That to me is, okay, I would really have liked to have seen Greer and Desmina in this patch as well, so that players who are not interested in raiding are able to enjoy these encounters in their boss form as opposed to the story form. In the game, that would have been really nice. So yeah, that's a little bothersome to me as a point of criticism for this patch as well.
Yeah, it feels like maybe that's actually a little bit unbalanced, right? Because I'm guessing it will be patch 2 Greer, patch 3 Ura.
Very likely.
But we also got the challenge conversions coming in patch 3.
Correct, yes.
Maybe it would have been smart to have 2 this time, one next patch, and then
CMs.
challenge mode be the thing for the third patch. Yes. Yeah, that might have been slightly better pacing there. I mean, I gotta say though, I do like the convergence. I think it's fun. I like how it's sort of a bit more meta eventy instead of just like, hey, fight these bosses, right? Like you got actually some events, you gotta like get some essences and stuff. You gotta get your work on stuff. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah, Convergence is alright. I'm not the biggest fan of that they did the boss moves every 25% thing.
Yeah.
Not the biggest fan of that. That that was something that didn't really kind of jive with me in the Soto convergences. Like, I mean, I guess I'll take it. Like, I think it's a little bit better this time because you kind of do the little fun Warclaw chase, like the sniff.
Yeah.
Through the mountain, which okay, fine, I can deal with that. But I just wanted I kind of like a proper continuous boss fight. Would have been nice.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it kind of goes back to that whole HP spongy thing. I think that's why they're doing it. I think they're trying to break it up so it doesn't feel like that.
Yeah, that makes sense because
it's kind of a relatively cheap way of doing it, though.
And
just like put it in the phase where you gotta move.
Right? Yeah, they could have done that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but I do think it helps a little bit, though. I do think it
for
helps
sure.
a bit.
And I actually like all the RP stuff. I like that you
RP stuff is good.
I like that you go really fast when you have 50 essence. I don't know if you tried it, but if you have max essence, you have like a 50% move speed on your walk, or you just
really,
you're really fast, which is content. I do like that actually. That is big content.
They also they big buffed the challenge mode convergences.
They did. Yeah, this was a really nice change. I think specifically they don't all give the same rewards now, right? Because of course, like the obvious outlier, of course, is Umbriel, right? Much harder than any of the ones, but not even close, right? In terms of the difficulty. So obviously players would simply avoid them, and you'd feel very, very punished for failing, and there's like not much reward to the risk. So I think this is a very smart decision. There's some actually this patch has got some really nice little tweaks in them. Actually, some really nice tweaks attached to it. Like
I like how there's a reason to do Umbriel once a week now, and I do like that they didn't look that behind the Gods reward. I think the Gods reward is still quite spicy to get.
Yeah. Well,
so it's just you just gotta beat Umbriel on challenge mode, which is more challenging but much more doable than getting it on goals.
I just like the idea of doing both, right? I think that I like the idea of, let's say, a guild group or maybe a semi-guild group, so like a commander organizes a weekly Umbriel, for example. That's something they do on the LFG. That's part of like what they do in the game. I actually like the idea that they could aspire, right, to be able to consistently clear gold, right, and kind of like get people in there, and therefore get a really good reward for that. Like that to me, that feels really good, right? If that's like something there. So I think why not both? I mean, I think fair enough. I think just clearing Umbriel is definitely an accomplishment. Like, to be frank, like, I'll be real here. I think clearing Umbriel CM in a convergence,
even on goals, it's spicy.
It is significantly harder than almost every single raid. I'm not joking. That it is. If you compare like the win rate of Umbriel CM compared to like Veil Guardian, like Veil Guardian is gonna have a way higher win rate than Umbriel CM.
I think there's more people who have Legendary Conqueror of Saros than have the Convergence CM title.
Wait, that's
I think
correct.
so. But to be fair, people don't care about the Convergence CM title, okay?
And also, we know what people are doing, okay? People are buying that, and obviously there's Saros.dll as well. We all know about Saros.dll. Seriously, I've seen. Look,
we don't talk about that on my stream.
I've seen some good logs.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that on my stream.
Very good virtuoso
talk about that when I'm not on the stream. Yeah. You can talk about it on your own stream. But no, but it's cool. I like that there's just a reason to run CM now, and hopefully people won't be as scared of not getting goals because you still get the reward. And I think just more people running it will lead to more people getting it on goals. Right. I feel like right now, if you're trying to get Umbriel on goals, it's pretty impossible. Like, nobody's doing that. But now there's actually a reason to do Umbriel CM once a week, which should make it much easier for people to also get their goals clear, which I think is great.
Yes.
Did you see that there's titles, or a title for, like, helping people clear the new raid for the first time?
Yes.
I mean, that's so cool. I love
that. It's a pretty good idea. For sure. Obviously, it is like it's finite. You have to do it like 100 times, 100 people.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's
and
cool.
look,
it's cool,
it's a literal title for raid selling. That is big right there. That's what I'm talking about. Yo!
Not just that. It's also for helping. Okay, I'm gonna get that title legit. That's my goal from now on. On my helping newbies clear the raid title. I really want that. It'd be great.
And then you charge them for it. You charge them for training.
No, we do.
Training
we do not
services.
charge them for training. We do not do that. No, we do not do that.
Yeah. No, I think stuff like that's good. I think anything that kind of encourages people to actually use the LFG. Like in general, I think anything that kind of encourages you to get out of your main social circle is good. I would actually say counterpoint. By the way, you know what else would do this? I'll tell you. Making the repeatability of raids higher, making it not a weekly lockout instead, because if you the weekly lockout route, it enables you to like
do it once and then
do it once and then raid log, right? And then it's very reliable, right, to have a static that like raids at once a week and like clears the raid and so on. And so on. If you have rewards that you can get every day, like some kind of daily raid wing, for example, or maybe there's like some level of replayability to raids, what does that do? Realistically, you're not going to raid with your static every day, right? Like nobody's doing that, right? It means that maybe you raid with 3 people and you're going to pug the remaining players. Maybe you've got 5 and you get the remaining players to get some fat loot, right, from the raids. So I think it is worth noting that although I do approve of this achievement, I think there are other things they could do that are kind of the elephant in the room and are pretty obvious, okay? I have to point this out. Decima gives you 2 gold. That is the same as Dragonstorm, right? And
it should be at least 4.
And this is wild. The difference in difficulty between these things is ridiculous. And Dragonstorm basically has better loot. Like this is crazy.
Kiting in normal mode gives you 4.
Yeah.
Kiting in normal mode gives you 4. Harvest Temple normal mode also gives you 4. Yeah, they should change that for sure.
There's some room for improvement, right, in terms of the gold that these could give you, right? The rewards. I think,
I will say though, not to disagree with your point, not to be what about this one, but like I've been getting into Final Fantasy Savage raiding. And their lockout is so much worse. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I really like Savage raids in Final Fantasy, but in that game, it's straight up like if somebody in the group has already cleared it this week, the rest gets worse loot.
Yeah.
So it's like you raid with your static and they're just done. And like you're not gonna help anyone get it because you will literally ruin their loot.
Yeah.
Again, not to be like, well, this is not that bad, but at least it's not that bad.
Oh yeah.
But I do agree.
I think
a daily race wing would improve it a ton.
I mean, I obviously disapprove of systems like that as well, to be honest. There's a similar system in WoW with Mythic raiding that is equally frustrating to play around. It's super annoying, and I don't like it. Yeah, like the way the system is set up is that you basically have to play with your guild and only your guild, right? A lot of the time.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
Good, right? Like I don't like that. I'm not a fan. I like the idea of kind of encouraging people to play with a wide range of other people too.
Well,
I would say that there's a really important caveat here in that Guild Wars 2 is fundamentally different from these other games in that Guild Wars 2...
Because of the loot, yeah.
Yeah, because Guild Wars 2 is a gold farming game. This is a very important distinction, right? Like, WoW and 14 are gear farming games and cosmetics, obviously, right? but they're gear farming. But you don't farm gear in Guild Wars, you farm gold. So gold is the metric by which every single activity's reward structure is gauged, right? If an activity does not give you good gold per hour, players in Guild Wars 2 are not going to engage with it because simply that is the game, right? Guild Wars 2 at its core is a gold farm simulator. That is what it is. So the reward structures of these things must be designed accordingly in order so that players are feeling rewarded for the effort and the time that they're putting into completing this content, right? And I think this is something where raids have fallen short significantly historically and regrettably now with Wing 8 as well.
Yeah, people will run this to get their achievements. People will want to get their clears, but it's purely from a goal. Like, people are just doing this for the heck of it. People are not doing this for the goals. At least not right now.
Yeah. I am a little bit worried about this regarding Wing 8, is that I think people are going to clear it, and then they're going to go, you know what? Whew, that was intense. I think that'll do, right? And then I think yeah. For sure. Especially when we're dealing with Desmina, right? Like, it's like, oh, goodness me. Like, that was an experience. I think that'll do it, right? And I think that raids need to be replayable, right? This is a key feature of systems like this in MMOs. They drive engagement long-term with players. I'm certainly a little bit worried with the state of Wing 8 right now that might not happen quite as much as...
Yeah, because I gotta say, like, again, I was very much expecting this to be very easy and to be a very extremely accessible, get as many people involved as possible, but it's very much feels like it's for the raid community, but not necessarily gonna appeal to the rest of the community as much.
Yeah, I mean,
they're getting mileage out of the map and story, they're getting mileage out of the Convergence, but yeah, I don't see them necessarily having this raid and suddenly turning around the fate of raids in Guild Wars 2 just yet.
I would even go a little bit of a step further. I would say that I have some concerns about the difficulty of this raid, even in relation to the actual raid community itself. Like, I think that for the average raider in Guild Wars 2, this raid's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Like, not only because
I mean, you already see it, right? You already see people not engaging with Wing 6 as much.
Exactly,
currently,
yeah.
Right?
You know, you see way less 5, 6, 7s. There's way less POF raids compared to HOT raids. And I feel like this is harder than the POF raids, right? And it's also harder in a very specific way, which means that everyone needs to understand it. Like, one thing that's kind of good, in a sense, actually, with Guild Wars 2 raids, is that you can basically have 3 people who know what's going on, and then 7 people who are kind of along for the ride. You cannot do that with Desmina. That does not work.
No, everybody has to be on point.
Yeah.
I agree.
And this is actually interesting, because I think that it's kind of hard even for people who already raid and maybe even farm raids right now. So I'll be really interested to see how the numbers shake out, and if ArenaNet decide to make any adjustments to the content as well over time, over the next couple of weeks.
I agree. Honestly, I could see them nerfed a bit. I could see that happen.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like, if we're getting challenge mode Desmina, then does this Desmina really need to be this challenging? Is that really a necessary thing? If we are doing challenge modes anyway, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I was definitely not expecting it to be this hard, right? For sure. Yeah. I was expecting it to be like, okay, get in there, blast, bit of fun, really good for like someone who's like, oh, I like raiding in these other games. I've played WoW, Final Fantasy, whatever. I'll come try raiding in Guild Wars 2. Boom, just get in there and slam it, and just have some fun, blast, get the fat loot, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of an ordeal, right? For I think a lot of groups trying to learn and kind of get that going.
I agree. I think we've kind of discussed everything. Is there anything we've missed? We've talked about the Convergence. We've talked about story briefly. Talked about the raid a whole bunch. Legendary, we also covered. I think we've revealed the patch. We have reviewed the patch. It's patch review. I just have to now bully you for not clearing the raid. There you go. See, what was I think it's time for me to leave this voice call before that happens. Yeah. Exactly. All right. Thanks for joining me, Teapot. Thanks you are welcome. For hanging out. Thanks for this little impromptu tea time podcast. Yes. Very good content. Love to see it.
I'll see you around.
Let's
Enjoy.
go.
You better kill the boss.
Bye-bye.
You better kill the boss tomorrow.
Yeah,
kill
I
Desmina.
gotta schedule some stuff.
Yeah, you gotta get down there and pump.
Part of me
Also
is
be top
tempted to
DPS.
join random pug groups right now.
Install Arc DPS.